want to talk just a little bit about experts and the danger of becoming too much of a self-proclaimed or even media-proclaimed expert. Let's start with one of my shortcomings in the agricultural world. I'm here in my potato patch, and you're probably looking at it thinking, where are the potatoes? Well, that's kind of the point. Last year, or a year or two ago, I wrote an article that talked about, even last year, how can you plant potatoes into clover and have fairly good results and have the clover as the cover crop. Well, it did work last year. Okay, not tremendous, but okay. And this year, tried the same thing, and it's a tremendous failure. So what's the difference? The difference is last year I planted the clover real small, and so it was just small, just starting to get established. And then I planted the potatoes sometime around the same time. The potatoes came up through the clover just fine. The clover took a while to get going. Potatoes essentially had a head start. The potatoes struggled last year a little bit from the potato bugs and the deer, so I assume that was part of its shortcoming. Well, in year two, I planted the potatoes into well-established clover. You can see it here behind me. And the potatoes really struggle to come up. I mean, we could show you where they're coming up just about everywhere, I guess, or I wouldn't even say, I'd say most of them are coming up, but they just were not thriving. They're being outcompeted by the clover. And I thought that they would just outcompete the clover. They haven't. Now what's happening is that it's dry, it's sort of a drought. The deer are moving in, they're just mowing off this clover. And there is a slight chance that after the deer mow off the clover, that the potatoes would emerge through that. But at this point, the deer are also eating the potatoes, the potato tops. So this would be something that I thought was really a pretty big success, that when you give it another year, you realize it was a one-year deal. I'd have to rip wider rows in here and keep to plant into, and probably keep sort of a mulched row where I plant into, and also keep the deer out of here, since they seem to like potato tops more than they ever used to. I don't know why. So things change, and we roll with it. Let me give you a picture of some of these close-up of the potatoes. Close-up of the clover, beaten down pretty hard. Potato bugs working on what little is left of the potato plant. Same thing here. A little bit of a potato plant coming in this. You can kind of look down that way, and 3 50-foot rows. Really, probably total loss this year on this section. Here is the same system being developed. You can see what it looked like last year. Here's the clover starting to emerge, and then you see the little potatoes coming up through right alongside of the clover. Last year I thought, we'll do it another round. Now these established potatoes you see here, these are actually all volunteers. To show you how far along these potatoes could be, this is the most notable of the volunteers. Shows you how terrible the other ones are doing by comparison. We do have a potato bug problem here too. I think we're gonna have to rotate potatoes out of here, find a new home for them. One of the things I love about social media, there's a lot of things I hate about it, but probably more things I hate than love, but I'm not sure that's true. One of the things I love about it is that it gives everybody the opportunity to voice their opinion, their beliefs, their ideas, and it's not restricted to a qualified professional. You know, there's a lot of experts out there, and you know, it seems like, where do you hear of most of the corruption at? Politics, our leaders, people in authority, people who are saying we're perfect, or at least we should be the example of perfection. We should know everything in theory, and then this is where it seems to be where most of the corruption is coming out of. And so the great thing about these social media platforms is any Joe Schmo like myself with an idea can say, hey, here's a thought. What do you think about it? Chew on this for a while. If it resonates with you, swallow it. If it doesn't, spit it out and move on. And I think, in, say, pre-social media, it was this, you're told exactly what to believe through the media and through a lot of the books even, and you didn't have many alternative voices. And so I think we have to really be wary of the experts, because there's a built-in there's a few temptations in life, and obviously the love of money. The love of money is the root of all evil, and so we know money presents a great temptation for people. But right up there, somewhere close to it, maybe second, third, fourth, fifth place, is the love of authority and to be in control and in charge of other people. Now, you don't see that so much in the gardening community, at least not in this grassroots way. We're all just kind of sharing what we've done and tried, and that's what makes it real, honest exploration of the world. But what about when they make a lot of money because of their expertise, or they're in charge because of their expertise, or they're in charge because they know what to do and we don't know how to do it, and so they can't ever be wrong? Now you're in a real bind, aren't you? You have to be right. You can't admit your shortcomings, and you have to keep lying even when you discover yourself to be wrong. That is, if there even any attempt on their part to be honest and sincere and show you what the truth is. I always think about in the Bible how it talked about, Jesus said, call no one rabbi, which meant teacher. And, I'm a teacher, and always thought, why, call nobody teacher? I don't think it really means don't be teachers. It also says call no one father. It obviously doesn't mean don't be a father. So it's not saying don't be a teacher, don't be a father. It's saying don't use this as a way to lord over. It even says don't call anyone master. So you don't use these things to lord over people. They're positions that you have. You can be an expert, you can be a teacher, but you can't use that to lord over people. And I think this is such an important point today, because we have a lot of this in the medical world and the political world. But increasingly we see it in the medical world, where a so-called expert is pushed on stage and they say, this person knows everything about your health and wellness, and you're going to do exactly what they say. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to do something else. So this exalting of experts to ruling class and almost godlike status is troubling, to say the least. I want to read these verses about call no one master, to let it kind of really sink in. But be ye not called rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. So I think it kind of sums it all up at the end. The greatest among you will be the servants. And this conversation was they started to talk about the Pharisees and how the Pharisees just wanted to rule and lord over people. So I think this, again relates to the grassroots movements of agriculture, where people are coming out and saying, I did this, it really worked. I didn't do this, it was a flop. And so I just encourage us all to, that are making these videos about agriculture, show off your failures, like my potato crop in the clover. Failed at multiple levels. And we can all learn a lot from my failure, so hopefully you don't have to make the same exact one. I think there's variations there that are going to be really good, but that's not the exact one yet. But running hand in hand with this, obviously we want to be really cautious about these sort of self-proclaimed and pronounced, and like in modern time period, people would not fall so much for, here's a dictator and they march him out onto the scene. They might, but not as quick. Or here's your king, King George or whatever, you're going to follow him. We won't fall for that so fast, but if you bring an expert out on this stage, so some of the danger of expertise is, if you look at credentialing and degrees, these are used in many ways to control the knowledge. So you can't pass the test until you say what they want you to say on certain things, even though it may be inaccurate information. It may be very, very biased and propaganda-filled information. I'll tell you, one of the hardest places to get good information is health, and it's also very confusing. Like I've watched lots and lots of videos and lots of information about diet, the best diet over the years, and I've changed my opinion, flip-flopped on a few things myself. Tough, and for the medical world out there to say we've got it all figured out, so much to the point that you just have to take our opinion on this and do it because we're the expert. It doesn't bode well for freedom. Part of this this kind of idea that, let's say you had two doctors. One is not licensed. One is, let's say, in Africa, and he learned his trade just working amongst the people, and somehow picked this up. He's had, say 50 years of experience. That's one form of doctor. And then you might have a medical doctor in the U.S. that has all the credentialing and might be right out of college. Which do you go to? Do you go to the one right out of college with all the credentialing, or do you go to the one that has 50 years of experience? I know what I'd pick. I'd pick the experience over the credentialing. So just because you passed a test or sat through some classes doesn't make you what you say you are. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of danger of, once you make a living doing this, that person feels that they have to maintain this aura of all-knowingness. And then on top of that, if the medical community they work for is trying to maintain a godlike sense of, we've got this all figured out and you just listen to what we say, then you have this really dangerous, you can have an egotistical doctor with a even more egotistical system or controlling system above that. So bottom line is, I guess we should all be wary of feeling that we are the expert on any given subject. We're all learning and in this together. Keep up the good work, all ye farmers and all ye gardeners. God bless and good day. Give you a little follow-up on the clover cover and potatoes and onions growing in this. This turned out so far so good. Like we said, the first year of clover and potatoes seemed to go okay together. I dug some beautiful volunteer potatoes out of here this morning in a few of these spots. Just very nice, very happy with them. These onions, the nicest I've grown in years. Not sure why. If it has to do with, like if we look in here, this is one of the nicer ones. Sometimes we fail to talk about the backstory. This section had a really heavy second helping of wood chips put on it. Not last year, but the year before that, and it's broken down quite nicely. This is the other portion where it's second year clover with potatoes coming in through it. You can see this taller stuff right here in the middle is rebounding somewhat, but the deer keep mowing it off. So I hoed rows in here and replanted, hoping for a second half of the summer. We still have a lot of deer getting here and munching stuff off, so got the electric fence up, trying to slow them down a little bit. Remains to be seen.